We're joined now by Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California. Congressman, do you agree with this decision?
Thank you, Brianna, for your question. Grocery costs continue to increase and healthcare costs are skyrocketing. And what is the president focused on? Starting another forever war in Venezuela. I mean, what are we doing here? The administration struck a drug boat on September 2nd that wasn't even carrying fentanyl, wasn't even headed to the United States, and now they seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. We need congressional oversight, and unfortunately, the House Republicans are simply rubber stamps for this administration, and so we need to understand why the administration has these misplaced priorities.
Okay, and so I hear you on that. What do you think he's doing? And then I want to talk to you specifically about this operation. What do you think he's doing?
I think Donald Trump is trying to distract the American people from the real issues facing ordinary Americans, such as grocery prices and healthcare prices and electricity costs. And again, why are we even doing these things in Venezuela without congressional authorization? Congress has not voted for war with Venezuela. We haven't even voted for an authorization for the use of military force. And now we're striking alleged drug boats and seizing oil tankers. This is insane. We need congressional oversight, and the administration needs to come to Congress and get authorization to take these actions.
So specifically on this seizure of the oil tanker, it's not the first time that this has been done. It was done under the Biden administration. What do you think about that?
You have to look at this in context. This is on the heels of multiple strikes on Venezuela boats. And again, the strike on September 2nd was so disturbing that Congress, on a bipartisan basis, put into the National Defense Authorization Act. You got to release the video of that strike to the American people, especially the second strike. And so we clearly have concerns in Congress, and we need the administration to focus on reducing costs instead of their random escapades around the world.
And what are your concerns as far as, and obviously there are concerns about apparent goals of regime change here. What are your concerns about Maduro staying in power now that we've seen what happened during the 2024 election there, that it was a total farce? What are, obviously you have a lot of concerns, criticisms of what he's doing, how he's obviously not involving Congress in this, but what are your concerns about Venezuela being under Maduro's rule right now?
Sure, yeah. Maduro is a horrible, evil person. And I would love to see regime change there. I would love to see regime change in a lot of other countries with horrible, evil dictators. But that is not what the American people are concerned about right now. We're concerned about lowering prices on groceries and healthcare and electricity rates. And this administration is totally not focused on that. And I just asked the president, please focus on what he campaigned on, which was eliminating forever wars and reducing prices, both of which he has totally and utterly failed.
I do want to ask you about that follow-up strike that happened on September 11th on that alleged drug boat. You say video evidence appears to confirm a war crime has occurred in that instance. There are two sources with direct knowledge telling CNN that Admiral Mitch Bradley told lawmakers last week he consulted with the uniformed lawyer on duty during the operation before approving that secondary strike that killed survivors. And the JAG officer assessed it would be legal to move forward with the second strike. We should note you were a JAG. What questions do you have for that particular JAG? What questions do you have about this military legal process?
I served on active duty as a JAG for 4 years and then 21 years in the reserves. It is indisputable that you cannot strike shipwreck survivors. That is an illegal order. That is a war crime. And if the Department of Defense wants to justify it, they've got to release the video of that second strike that Congress, on a bipartisan basis, demanded. And by the way, the first strike is also illegal. This boat was not even headed towards the United States. It was headed, based on public reporting, to another foreign country, Suriname, to then get drugs to Europe. Under no legal justification does the president's Article 2 self-defense power apply to the self-defense of the foreign country of Suriname or of Europe. So even the first strike, in my opinion, is illegal.
Yeah, and a number of people hold that opinion. Of course, the administration disagrees with you. And that's obviously something that, I think is going to be debated. But I want to ask you, because as you hear that a JAG was involved in this process, what does that say to you? Because there was a military lawyer approving this. So what specific questions would you have for that lawyer, who that lawyer might be, what this process is, as someone who's been in that process?
So let's take a step back. The administration fired a bunch of JAGs earlier this year, and they sent this signal: if you don't kneel down to this administration's line, then we're going to fire you. So there is that pressure on everyone in administration to simply do whatever pops into the president's mind. Second, the questions I would ask is, on what legal justification do you strike 2 shipwreck survivors, by the way, in the middle of nowhere, in the frickin' ocean? Just common sense. 2 people, their boat is blown up, they're floating around with no means of locomotion, no radio. There is no reasonable justification for killing them. And we know, by the way, that the Department of Defense knows this is wrong, because there were additional strikes on other boats where there were survivors, and guess what? They went and they saved those survivors instead of killing them.
Congressman Ted Lieu, thank you so much for being with us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.